dive right into this. We're going to trace exactly how the phoenix evolved from an ancient Egyptian mystery into today's ultimate pop culture symbol of resilience. I mean, you see it literally everywhere, right? From corporate logos to blockbuster video games. But the bird we picture today, the one dramatically bursting into flames and rising from its own ashes, is actually a massive patchwork of thousands of years of shifting beliefs. So today, we're going to untangle the history from the legend.
We'll be mapping out this journey across 5 distinct eras: ancient roots, Imperial Roman Christianity, the Great Fire Rebirth debate, the Feng Huang and global myths, and finally its modern pop culture rebirth.
So Part 1, Ancient Roots.
Just look at the massive span of history we're dealing with here. We're going all the way back to 2500 BCE with the Egyptian Bennu, then leaping to 500 BCE when the Greeks start spinning their own phoenix narratives. By 300 CE, we hit the first clear record of that famous fiery rebirth. And it doesn't stop there. The myth is still actively evolving in the modern era, from the naming of Phoenix, Arizona in 1867, right up to modern fantasy authors completely inventing brand new magical properties in the 1990s.
Now, there's a fascinating divide in the academic world about where this bird actually came from. Position A argues that the myth originated in Egypt with the Bennu. This was a heron-like bird directly tied to the sun god Ra. Position B, on the other hand, argues that the Greeks essentially made up their own eagle-like bird entirely independently. But here's the crazy part. Neither of these original versions burst into flames. The early Greek tradition, written about by historians like Herodotus, simply claimed the bird carried its parent's body encased in an egg made of myrrh to the sun temple in Heliopolis. No ashes, no fire at all.
Moving on to Part 2, Imperial Rome and Christianity.
It's wild how adaptable this myth really is. The phoenix completely shifted from a solar bird into a hardcore imperial icon. Roman emperors like Claudius and Constantine literally minted the phoenix right onto their money. Imagine pulling a coin out of your pocket in ancient Rome and seeing that stamped on it. It was incredibly effective political propaganda, sending the public a clear, unavoidable message. Just like this mythological bird, the Roman Empire is going to continually renew itself. It is eternal.
But then comes a massive symbolic shift. Early Christians looked at this pagan symbol and deliberately adopted it for themselves. Around 96 CE, Clement of Rome explicitly pointed to the phoenix as a natural biological proof of resurrection. To early Christian apologists, this was a powerful, highly relatable analogy to explain Christ's resurrection and the soul's immortality to everyday people. Over time, the phoenix was incorporated into medieval bestiaries as a literal representation of paradise, and you see it pop up in Renaissance emblem books too. It totally transformed from a symbol of cosmic renewal into one of personal, spiritual salvation.
Which brings us to Part 3, the fire rebirth debate. So who actually invented the rebirth from ashes narrative? Because remember, the Egyptians and early Greeks didn't have the bird catching fire. Where on earth did we get the idea that a phoenix rises from its own ashes? Scholars are actively arguing about this right now. Was the fiery rebirth a late Christian innovation, around 300 CE, engineered specifically to parallel the death and resurrection of Christ? Or is it actually an older pagan concept? Some think it might be tied to the Stoic philosophical idea of ekborosis, the belief that the universe undergoes this periodic cosmic conflagration and then renews itself from the flames. Well, it all hinges on a mysterious, heavily debated poem from around 300 CE called De Ave Phoenix. This is absolutely crucial to our explainer today. It is the very first undisputed text to explicitly mention the fiery rebirth. But there's a huge catch. Experts argue fiercely over who actually wrote it. Was it the Christian apologist Lactantius writing a subtle allegory, or was it an anonymous pagan author blending philosophy and myth? Whoever wrote it, this exact poem is the moment the ashes entered the chat and changed the myth forever.
Part 4, Feng Huang and global myths.
We really need to clear up a common misconception here. You see this all the time today. The Chinese Feng Huang is constantly mistranslated and conflated with the Western phoenix, but scholars broadly agree they are totally independent developments. While the Western phoenix is this solitary bird famous for its death and fire rebirth cycle, the Feng Huang is a composite, auspicious bird that symbolizes harmony, balance, and imperial virtue. And this is key. It has absolutely zero rebirth from ashes motif. None. Equating the two is purely a modern Western phenomenon. And finally, Part 5, Modern Pop Culture Rebirth.
Today, the modern world has totally re-engineered the phoenix. It's been completely stripped of its ancient religious context to become the ultimate symbol for entertainment and branding. You revive your party with a phoenix down in Final Fantasy. You catch Moltres in Pokemon. You read Osamu Tezuka's epic manga, Phoenix. It's everywhere in sports. The Phoenix Suns, Phoenix Rising FC, and honestly, it is basically a ubiquitous metaphor in the corporate world for bankruptcy restructuring. It's the universal shorthand for bouncing back.
It's actually kind of crazy how many facts about the Phoenix are just modern fictions or flat-out mistranslations. Healing Tears? Purely fictional. Popularized by modern fantasy authors in the 1990s with absolutely zero basis in ancient texts. What about it being mentioned in the Bible? False. The Hebrew word kal in Job 29:18 actually translates to sand or palm tree. Calling it a phoenix is a much later insertion. And no, it was never a real extinct bird. Even ancient historians like Pliny the Elder openly expressed skepticism about its biological reality.
But you know, despite all the modern changes and the scholarly debunking, that classic 500-year cycle from Greek lore just sticks with us. It's deeply embedded in our collective consciousness, a real testament to our enduring fascination with cheating time.
So here's a final thought for you to ponder as we wrap up this. Why, after thousands of years, does the human psyche so desperately need to continually reinvent an immortal bird that never actually existed? Whether it's an Egyptian sun temple, a Roman coin, a medieval bestiary, or a modern video game, we clearly have a deep psychological need for the phoenix. It represents our ultimate hope, that no matter how total the destruction seems, there is always the promise of starting over, fresh from the ashes.